Good day, gentlemen. James Marshall here. In today's video, we're going to be diving into the myth of the one. That cosmically predestined partner that's out there for everyone, perfect, just waiting for you to come into her life. So we'll be looking at whether this is just a myth, something that's just a construct, or is it actually a reality? And if so, how do you go about finding that special one? You've probably heard some phrases like this in your life, given to you by well-meaning people trying to make you feel good or give you some advice, such as, there's somebody out there for everybody. When the time is right, she will appear. All you got to do is be nice, treat her nice, and she'll eventually notice you, or some variation upon this. Now, you can probably tell by the slightly sarcastic tone of my voice that I don't really agree with these ideas, although they are really pervasive. And unfortunately, a lot of men and women base their entire dating strategies around what amounts to a superstitious idea, which is kind of strange because in other areas of your life where you know that there are processes you need to go through, there are skills you need to acquire, there are resources you need to collect, there are benchmarks and goals that you need to move through in order to achieve things, you're not really given the advice of just wait around and things will appear, or every little thing is going to turn out all right in your career or in your investment strategies or in your studies, based around you just wishing and hoping. And what is the hope that's presented with an idea like there's somebody for everyone, or there's someone out there for you that's special, that's just going to turn up one day, is it puts you in a position where you don't really have any agency. It's really stating that the universe, for some reason, is going to take special note of you and deliver to you the things that you want in your life because you want them. And the only action that you need to be involved in there is having faith and waiting, which is not a proactive strategy. It puts you in a situation where you don't need to develop skills, you don't need to put yourself out there, you don't need to take risks, you don't need to improve as a man or your communication abilities, your seduction abilities or whatever, because somewhere out there is this predestined person that was created specifically for you, and it's just a matter of time before you bump into each other, and then life is going to be gravy, then everything is going to be good. So the concept that's put out there of this cosmic one, I think, is actually really destructive on average, because again, it takes away your ability to sift through the options that you have in your life and to start to become realistic about how many options you have, and therefore how many people you can choose the one from, which is where I want to get into the idea that there is such a thing as the one in your life. It's not that the gods or the stars or the universe is invested in this and they or it or whatever has created it for you, and that there is at some point you're just going to align with this person and everything is going to be perfect. That's where I think the myth is a complete falsehood, and it is perpetrated and spread through all sorts of ideas in terms of romantic comedies or dating advice, well-meaning truisms from people who care about you and see that you're struggling and want to make you feel better about things. Things will turn out all right, which is a kind of a funny delusion that humans tend to hold in all sorts of areas, which maybe is, has its positives in the sense that it's better to have hope that things are going to improve than to be nihilistic about things. But the reality is that you will get what is you deserve. You will get what is coming to you, which will be, on average, the base level median average of what you have access to. If you are, not born into wealth and you get some kind of skill or job which gives you a very low income and that's where you stay, you can see what it is that you're going to get more or less over your lifetime, taking into account various random disasters and the occasional windfalls or wins that might come along your way, just waiting and hoping that things are going to get better or that you're going to win the lottery. Like, these are kinds of poverty mindsets. These are mindsets where it's like, I put my responsibility somewhere else. I am in a situation where I don't have control over what's happening. I have to wait and hope for some kind of higher power to deliver things to me. And the reality is that that's not going to happen on average. Do some people, date their childhood sweetheart and they're perfect for them and they marry them and they have a wonderful life together? Yes, of course, that can happen. But that's statistically way less likely to happen than being a guy who is trying to get access to a certain number of women in whatever way it is that he can, and out of that very small number has to choose somebody or multiple people in consecutive periods of time to spend his romantic dating sexual life with. And so the reality is those options determine who is the one for you. Guys with very little options have to choose the one from a spread of 3 to 5 girls or something like that, whereas guys that have skills and access can be searching in a much wider group of people in order to find someone that's actually compatible with them. The myth of the one tends to handicap personal growth, because if the idea is that there's someone out there who is perfect for you, then the implication is that you are perfect for somebody who's out there as well. And it's just a matter of meeting each other or bumping into each other, and then your sense of happiness and fulfillment will be actualized based around being with that person. Another big problem with this idea is that it doesn't allow for your personal growth, because the reality is the man that you were when you were 19 or 21 should be actually in no way comparable to the man when you're 28 or 35. That over time you can develop yourself to improve yourself to become a much better option for people that have options. And you can't expect a woman to be extremely beautiful and vivacious and devoted and popular and skilled and smart and all these things, and for her to then bump into you and perceive you as the one just because you perceive her as the one. The reality is that a lot of men have met the one at various points in their life, and they didn't have the skills or the seductive ability to get her. So that even though fate or the universe did deliver someone into their class or somehow into their social orbit who they perceive to be perfect for them, it doesn't work the other way around. The woman sees the guy as being nervous or unskilled, he didn't know how to take her out or make her feel like a woman, or intrigue her or project his masculinity onto her in such a way that it really activated her feminine expression. And so therefore she doesn't perceive him as her one. And then the paths of fate diverge and you've missed that opportunity. A more proactive way to be looking at this is that there are options out there. Currently, what level of options do I have access to? Probably very few. Most men live essentially within a tiny little village, even if they live in a major metropolis, because the number of people that they interact with daily through their work, through their studies, through their friendship groups, and through their dating life is minuscule. They may have somewhere between 0 and 2 or 3 potential options of women that they might be able to pursue. And that's going to lead to, at best, forcing yourself and somebody else into a partnership that is essentially incompatible because you didn't have enough options to choose from, and probably you haven't yet developed yourself enough to be able to get and retain a high quality woman. And so people will justify their situations, as they always have to, right? We have to rationalize the situation that we're in terms of our economics and our personal growth and the people that we have in our lives. And so the tendency will be to latch onto someone, anyone really, who will accept them and go on dates with them and get in bed with them and be in a relationship with them. And then to project onto this person the false idea that this is the perfect partner for me. Is it possible? Yes, okay, you might be lucky. You might just bump into the perfect partner out of a very small spread of options. But more likely than not, you won't, because you won't be skilled, trained and experienced enough. And you've only got 2, 3, 4, whatever options to choose from. So you've got to take what you can get. Beggars can't be choosers, as they say. And then you can end up, as so many men do, infinite numbers of clients that have come to me have told me many horror stories of spending, and let's be honest, wasting years of their young, productive, virile lives being in partnerships that were not nourishing, where they were either not particularly attracted to the woman, she didn't treat him really well, they weren't sexually compatible, they didn't challenge and inspire each other, they weren't each other's rock. And then you can, of course, have all of the really negative aspects that can come into being inside a toxic relationship, of being codependent, of being belittled, of being sexless or having sex held over you as something that is negotiated and traded upon, that you are cut off and from your social networks, your friends, your family, that you are in a state of complacency, mediocrity, boredom, right? And these kinds of things can, and often do, drag on for many years. Now, it's well known that being lonely is a health hazard, right? If you're spending massive extended periods of your life lonely and not out of choice, you're not some monk or someone who's decided to be in solitude, but someone who craves human connection and doesn't get it, that this can make your life much shorter. And obviously it makes it less enriching. But on the other side, being in a really toxic, fraught relationship, which has a lot of discord or discontent or feeling like you're being taken advantage of or not being appreciated and so on, all these aspects that can exist in a relationship which isn't not good, also has the same kinds of detrimental effects on health as you would have from loneliness. It's better, in my opinion, to have periods of aloneness which are tactical, that is not where you're just being locked in your bedroom being depressed, but where you're actually using your single time to improve yourself and improve your options, as opposed to what so many guys do, which is just stay in a relationship out of essentially fear of scarcity or fear of being alone, because they know for a fact that if they lose Susie, their average girlfriend that they're not particularly happy with, that the alternative is being alone, is trying to hit the apps or ineffectually be a single man again, knowing that that could easily lead to many years actually of being single. So many people will rationalize the situation they're in, even though it's far from ideal, and even though it could be changed, right? There are things that could be done to improve it, out of a need to, protect their identity and their ego, out of a need to justify the situation that they're in, and then to sit in complacency. And we don't have that much time, right? Like, what is your active dating life for the average man? It's somewhere between 10 to 20 years cumulatively. Let's say if you're, from the age of 18, a lot of guys might start their dating quite a bit later in their 20s, and it's getting later and later with the newer generations and longer periods of celibacy, not self-imposed, but externally imposed celibacy. Guys being in situations where, okay, maybe their dating life starts later, and then what happens? Over the lifetime, through your 20s, maybe 30s, maybe 40s, you're going to go through cycles of being single, dating, being in relationships, those ending, and then going through that kind of seducer cycle multiple times. Again, there will be the odd person who marries their beautiful, vivacious, amazing childhood sweetheart, and they at 22, they're out of the game, and that's it. And they live happily ever after. Okay, we know that those things can happen, just as someone could win money at a casino, but much more likely that they're not going to. The stats and the lived experience of most people in this day and age is that you are going to be going through periods of singleness, out there hunting and trying to make something happen, being in relationships and cycling in and out of that. So over a period of 10 to 20 years, which is kind of your optimal period of being a guy that's proactively dating, as opposed to I'm settled in a relationship and that's part of my life and I don't need to worry about that anymore. I need to maintain it. I need to make it a priority if I want it to be a good relationship. But I'm not a single hunting man anymore. Okay, at some point, most people will kind of check out of the dating market permanently or semi-permanently for 10 years until 50% of them then, get divorced and have to come out again in their 40s and figure it out again. So the concept of this, that there is one person out there for you, maybe that made sense as a kind of societal idea when only, 2 generations ago, even my parents' generation, but certainly grandparents and prior to that, everyone hooked up with someone within the village or within their religious grouping, or someone that was in close proximity, sometimes actually dealt with and dictated by your parents. But there was a small spread of options. Everyone was coupled up, and then it was basically understood that you would stay with that person for the rest of your life, and most people did. And so therefore they did find their one, and the myth of that person being the one, kind of made sense within that context. Doesn't mean that those relationships were all healthy or amazing, but they were what people had, and that's what they stuck to. We are so far gone from that era now in the modern West. Very few people are going to live like that, and anyone who's kind of wistfully thinking about the golden age of back when every guy got a girl when he was 21 and got married at 22 and that was your lady, That really doesn't exist in most places in the world now. So we have to be prepared for the realities, and we have to dispel and put aside certain mythologies that don't assist us anymore. More realistic phrasing of something like that would be, there's somebody out there for everybody within the spread of options that you have that will lead to a 2 to 5 year relationship, which will end, and then you will need to cycle back out and try and find a new group of women to choose another partner from, and this will extend for the next 10 to 20 years until possibly you cohabit and couple with someone and have children with them, although then the potentiality is that 50% of those relationships will end in divorce and you'll lose half your shit and have difficulty accessing your children. Then you'll have to start again as well. And there's someone for everybody. That doesn't roll off the tongue quite as well, but that's more realistic in terms of what you're facing. Is that terrible? Is that amazing? Should things be differently? It doesn't matter. It's the way things are. There are a lot of advantages to that, right? To the situation that we find ourselves in. Can be, if you know how to work the system well, which is that, cool, you get to practice relationships. You get to have one, hopefully, when you're young. My first girlfriend was when I was 18. We were together for a couple of years. It was pretty fiery and bad, and there was a lot of fighting and miscommunication and learning and compromising and tripping over each other's boundaries and all sorts of mess. And coming out of that, when it ended inevitably and as it should, then I was put in a situation where I could assess what had happened in the relationship. I could take learnings from that. I could look back and see what was her shit, what was mine. Were we actually compatible and we just didn't do this right? Or actually, no, we weren't particularly compatible. We worked for that period of time. We got what we got out of each other. We had fun. We learnt. We grew. We fought. All of that stuff. Someone's heart got broken. Someone cheated on someone. There was a big mess afterwards. And cool, coming out of that, if I am intelligent about doing an autopsy on the relationship and realizing what is it that I needed to learn as a young, immature man who was full of arrogance and fire and didn't know what he was doing or how to treat a woman exactly, and all of her mistakes as well, to then go out and go, all right, if I'm now looking for another one, I'm aware of that there are certain behaviors that I'm going to need to shift, or there's certain behaviors and skills that I'm going to need to develop if I want to be able to access broader groups of different types of women. If I simply repeat the same thing over and over again without making any adjustments or changes to myself, and then I'm hunting again within a very limited social circle with options of 1 to 3 women or whatever it is that I have access to. And I mean, but be realistic about that for you. You should be able to know right now what is the spread of options that you can choose from. For some men, it'll be a resounding 0. It'll just be like, okay, I don't have any dates. I'm not getting any matches that are leading to dates. I don't go out and approach women. In my social circle, it's all dudes except for that one girlfriend of the one friend. I don't have a sister that I can access her friends or whatever, and I can see that right now it's 0 access, and after another month and another month, it's still more or less 0 access, even if I need to be aware of any false positives that I'm getting from usually dating apps or pining over some person that's within my social circle that I'm working up the courage, or I'm, basically friend zone, but I'm hanging around, hoping that person is going to recognize me as the one day. Old grandma's advice of just be nice to her and wait, and then she'll eventually, once she gets sick of dating the exciting guys around her, then she'll eventually end up with you, right? So if I am holding on to this concept that someone that's right for me will turn up, I just need to wait, then again, I've robbed myself of the ability to make changes to change that situation, right? And so some guys will look at their spread of options and go, yeah, it's a pretty clear 0, which says to me you absolutely need to take action, and you of all the people out there need to be the ones that crush that myth inside yourself. No, there is not somebody out there for you, because if you live in a village with no women, right, which is essentially what the situation you're in. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of Manhattan, if you have no access to women, you live in a monastery village of just dudes. Might be great dudes, might be the best friends you'll ever have, but there's no women within them. Okay, there is actually no chance that the one's going to come into my life. Or if she does, it will just literally be the only one. Okay, I managed to get a date somehow out of some luck or Some paths of fate led with, oh, here is your one option. What are the chances that that is actually going to be the person that is going to make you happy, that is the person that is perfect for you? Absolutely not. And then, of course, you'll have all sorts of guys living in all sorts of other types of villages. A village where there is 2 women in the village, or the women where there is 4, but 2 of them are kind of funny looking, and one of them, has political views that make you very uncomfortable. Or one of them is really abrasive and needy, or codependent, or rude, or whatever. But this village only has these 3 women, so the one is which one of those 3 that I can actually get. Because again, you might be in a village where there's 15 or 20 women and 10 of them are really good prospects, but you don't have access to any of them because you have been friend zoned, or you're irrelevant to them, or they've already coupled up with other guys in the village. So it's really important in any aspect of your life to chart out a realistic progress plan or business plan, to be able to look at, all right, if I'm trying to make my millions or make my way in the world, I need to develop a skill where there's a market for it, and then I need to be able to go out and market it. I need to have a certain amount of resources behind me. And then I can see that there'll be certain breakthrough points, possibly, if it works, where I'll move into profit, where I'll move into large amounts of profit. And maybe I move to a point where one day I'm financially free, and so on. Just wishing and hoping the equivalent of the myth of the one is these like trashy ideas around the secret, right? Or like manifestation. There's so much trash out there in terms of what's being marketed in terms of manifestation, but it's built around the same kind of ethos. It's just like, project this thing, believe in this thing, and then somehow the universe will conspire to give these things to you. It's just blatantly not true. There will be certain people who already have access to enough connections and resources and so on that if they set their mind to something and then they, put a lot of energy into projecting into it, while at the same time as taking the real world physical actions that mean that that thing is actually possible, then yeah, cool, their mindsets and their belief and their faith may assist them. And on the side of relationships, yeah, if we don't allow space in our mind for someone special to come into your life and to actually increase your happiness, if you hold extremely negative beliefs around women or relationships, that it can never work, that it's always destined to failure, that women only want this or are this, and any kind of negative ideology that you hold within your head around women and relationships, yes, that's going to lead to you sabotaging situations that you get into, or feeling not inspired to get into them in the first place. So of course we need to hold some kind of mindset if we want to have a great relationship, or sequential relationships, or multiple relationships, in whatever way that we want to and can build tactically into our lives. Yeah, we need to have a certain space inside ourselves where we can accept that, right? Where we can welcome that in, where we can be, more importantly, clear about what it is that we're actually looking for. And this comes back to that you need experience in relationships in order to be able to actually have an ideal relationship. Inevitably, you're going to screw it up, or both of you are going to screw it up in some kind of way the first time or the first couple of times around. Again, there will be some people who are extremely mature out of the gate, who have great kind of intuitive relationship skills, and happen to find a partner who is also like that, and you can grow and develop together. And yes, you can actually go through your personal progress and expansion as a man in conjunction, or let's say in alignment with the woman that you're walking alongside for that period of time. Can that be done? Yes, absolutely. And a good woman, not the one, but a really good woman, can absolutely inspire you to do that. She can be the person that you are, keeping as a benchmark of that you want to keep up with, or that you want to inspire, or you want to impress, or you want to feel like you are worthy of being with her. And that, if she is a really high quality woman, will be an ongoing process. If she is growing and developing as her woman self, and you are at the same time, then yeah, you guys can match, mirror, and inspire each other. But the more likely reality is the first couple of times around, there'll be elements of that, and you may learn a lot, you may grow, but you obviously are likely to make mistakes along the way as well. To have not been prepared for this type of eventuality, how to actually handle a woman, how to deal with her moods, how to sexually satisfy her, how to deal with bad behavior, how to set boundaries, how to know what to give, what to take, what to receive, what to allow, right? How to be selfless and selfish, how to get your needs met and help somebody else meet their needs as well. All of this stuff is quite complex, and trying to learn and do it in your first relationship and expect it to be perfect is unrealistic. So yeah, you are going to most likely need to and will go through these cycles of singleness, moving into growth and development, improvement of yourself, to then level up, so that the next time around, if you choose to go from being inactive single to actively single, and actively single is where, yes, I'm dating, I'm meeting women, I'm seeing what it is that I do and don't like, I'm figuring more out about who I wish to be with, what I expect from somebody, what I'm willing to give. And then when I find somebody, or multiple bodies, but let's say somebody who aligns with me on all of these different metrics enough, right? We're never going to find someone who is perfect in every way, and you're not going to be perfect in every way for anyone. Right? That's another kind of misnomer in the myth, that you will be perfect for each other. No, you won't. At best, you'll be really good for each other, plus some spiky bits and some bits you don't like and some compromises that both of you are going to have to make along the way as well, because no one is each other's absolutely perfect ideal. But we can get close to that, and we can get as close enough as we need to in order for life to be good, right? For you to be in a functional, happy, healthy relationship. So your two kind of broad choices in terms of charting out your relationship and dating life over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years or whatever it may be, is to A, stay where you are doing what you're currently doing or not doing what you're currently not doing. All right, so to sit in action and to know that, cool, I've made a choice to limit my pool of options to 0 to whatever random occasional options that I have coming to my life. That means I'm committing, because you are doing this, by inaction you're committing. I'm committing to probably long periods of being alone, or long periods of being in a relationship that is far from ideal on all sorts of metrics. She's not nearly as attractive or sexy as I would hope. She's not that interesting. She's, a bit annoying, or whatever the things are, and I will have to settle for that for the length of time that I can put up with it, or that we can put up with each other. Possibly I'll end up just giving up into that and staying and going, all right, this is my lot in life. I made my bed, I'm going to sleep in it, those kinds of ideas. Or it fizzles out, and then you kind of rotate around that, when the majority of your young, and I can still consider myself young, it's like, from 20 to 40 something at least, you can be a young, healthy man, but you could spend 10, 15, or 20 years of that being basically alone or in relationships that weren't that great and were not really going anywhere, and you were just putting up with. All right, so note that is a strategy and it's a plan. It's kind of an out-of-the-box one that is given to many people, and it doesn't require you to do so much, but it's only going to yield those kinds of results. There is no fantastic, special love of your life in that plan, except from in the same way that 1 in a something million people will win the lottery, okay, 1 in some large amount of people using that, committing to that strategy, will find a partner that they find amazing. But for the majority of people, it's going to be highly dissatisfying, and it can last your entire dating life. And let's extrapolate that further. Most people are going to end up in some kind of relationship where they procreate. I know birth rates are dropping in many countries, but still, a lot of people are going to make babies, and they're going to have families, and they're going to create legacies, and they're going to be tied to these people then for the rest of their lives. And if they have chosen through inaction, or through just taking the best that they can, or through being completely unaware of what they're doing and just being steamrolled into something, but they find themselves in a situation where the one for them was somebody that means that they have a family life that has discord, that it ends up in an atrocious, horrendous divorce, and losing lots of your material possessions or access to your children. Right? There's all sorts of terrible things that can happen out of this strategy, which is based around not taking charge of your life. Yeah. Or we can extrapolate it out to another natural conclusion, which is that a lot of guys will end up ultimately alone. Right? Maybe they had it. Maybe they invested 10 years in a relationship that was never going to work, and they come out of that and they just completely slip through the cracks, because that is the thing. If you're a man that is not proactively out there meeting and dating, then you will vanish from the dating landscape, from the sexual market. And almost all guys will come in and out of the sexual market. There's been periods in my life where I was invisible, where I just wasn't meeting women, Maybe some periods that was out of choice for spiritual reasons, and other periods it was because I didn't know what to do and didn't have any girls in my life. And so you vanish, but you can reappear quite quickly again by just putting yourself out there and starting things again. However, many men don't. So there's that option, not a great plan. Or your other broader option is to recognize that essentially your dating and personal life is going to be determined by your actions. And that if you want to have great relationships, you're going to need to develop the skills and the access and the networks in order to bring enough of a volume of women through your life that you can both develop into the guy that really coveted amazing women want, and that you've got enough access that you can find and date and hang around with enough of them that you and her can both choose each other, and then you can choose from a much larger dating pool than the guy that's hoping for the mythical one and is moving around in his tiny little village. Now, getting out of this tiny village is not necessarily easy, which is why so many men never do. They just stay in their hut. But for the guys that want to improve their lives and improve their options so that they can find a better one, then yes, you're going to need to go through a process of putting yourself out there, facing rejection, being tactical about bringing good numbers of women into your life, figuring out ways for that to actually happen, and to have the seduction skills to be able to go from meeting someone to actually dating them. Obviously, this is what I've been specializing in for the last 15 plus years, nearly 20 years now actually, helping guys all around the world to go from scarcity into abundance, to go from living fairly mediocre or average or completely solo dating lives to having literally infinite options. Doesn't mean that they have infinite numbers of women in their beds, but it means that they have the skills and the ability and the mindsets to be able to continue to meet new women. Some years ago, I released my manifesto, my magnum opus, which covers the complete corpus of what goes into becoming a seductive man. This was called the 5 Principles of Natural Seduction. Years later, I updated it with the Legacy Edition, where I refined and fine-tuned everything that I had learned over the previous 10 years of coaching and, of course, being an actively dating man myself. And now, in 2024, I'm releasing a new mentorship program. So this is the 5 Principles of Natural Seduction Brotherhood. Launching on the 13th of July 2024, this is a 6-month guided program where I will be your personal mentor. The idea of this is to get a small, intimate group of guys that I can work with personally to help them through, especially the beginners and the intermediate phases of becoming proficient with women. To be able to learn the skills of cold approach, whether that's day game, night game, through your social circles. We'll look at the broad spread of how to make your investments work, how much time and how to use online game. A little, and I'll show you how it can actually work. To be able to learn the vitally important skill of going and talking to strangers, whether that's doing classic day game, whether that's integrating that with a social network and broadening your social circles so that you can pluck beautiful and amazing women out of those, and all of the effective strategies that I have taught men over the last 15 years to make sure that this becomes an inbuilt and natural skill. So stay tuned for the launch coming up very soon on the 13th of July. And also you can sign up for a free question and answer webinar where you can get on and ask me any questions, both about the course, but any seduction or lifestyle design or inner game related questions that you have. And this is going to be on the 11th of July. So you just need to click the link in the description, sign up for that, and you can get on and have a chat with me for free. So as you look back one day long in the future over your entire dating lifespan, and you ask yourself, did I ever meet the one? The answer will actually be yes. There will be someone within the number of girls that you met and dated, had relationships with, that was more ideal than all the rest. She is not the cosmically designed, perfect, universal one that was destined to you by Thor. It's just the one out of the 3 girlfriends you had, or the 5 girlfriends you had, or the 10 girls that you dated and a couple that you dated seriously. You look back and you go, oh yeah, she was the best that I ever had. And there may be sobering realities along with that. If you look back, let's say you're this old wizened man, you look back and you go, you know what? Dolores was the best I ever had, and she wasn't that good. And nor was I. If I was the best that she'd ever had, then she'd be thinking this too. Okay, the best I ever had wasn't that great. And so you got the one that you deserved, essentially, the one that you'd earned. the one that was allocated to you basically by the median average of the statistics of who you were involved with and what level of skills you developed, and Dolores was the best that you ever had. And it can be a disappointing prospect to think about. Or you could be looking back over this hypothetical dating life and go, out of those ones where there were points where I had a choice between 0 and 1 girls. And then later on, as I developed myself, learnt the skills, put myself out there, I was choosing between a spread of 10 potential options. And I chose that one. And maybe that one was the wrong choice at that time. Or maybe that one was a really good option. And I spent 3, 5, 7 years with that person, and I had a wonderful time. I learnt and grew and had great sex and had lots of fun and had cool friends and went on adventures and built a life together. She was the best one that I could have had, I think, in that period of my life. And, okay, shit happens, life happens. For whatever reason, something happened and that relationship ended. And hopefully we ended it relatively gracefully, and the period of damage or the level of damage was minimal. And we got over that. And then I moved back out into being a single man. And then I, again, built my networks out and my skills out, put myself out there enough that I was choosing then from an equally good spread of women, or maybe better. Let's say hopefully better, because I'm more of a man now. I'm more established. I know how women function. I know what turns them on. I know how to deliver them amazing pleasure. I know how to not put up with their shit and put them in their place when I need to. And so then I've upgraded to a different echelon or level of woman. And then out of that spread of whatever it was, a dozen good options, there was a really great one. And I ended up spending that time with her. And that one during that period was the best one that I could have got. And I was the best one that she could have had during that period. Cool, and that lasts for as long as it lasts. And maybe we repeat that cycle multiple times in our lives. Or maybe we recognize along this spread, because there is this danger that you could pursue the white whale forever. You could always be trying to upgrade to the next hottest or the next most amazing or famous or whatever girl, and you may have been fooled by the grass is always greener fallacy. And you may have given up the best one that you were ever going to have, actually, to try and get a better one, and then realize later that, oh no, she was the one, in the sense of all the ones that I had options for over my life. And if I was being tactical and improving my skills and working this thing, that meant that there was, let's say, 5 to 10 serious prospects over the period of my life where I could have possibly put a ring on it, or decided that I was going to commit to something and really invest in this person, possibly for a lifetime or half a lifetime or whatever. And I let them go, or I got rid of them because I thought the grass was going to be greener, and then later I realized, no, that was the greenest grass I was going to have. This can happen as well. So I'm not advocating for an eternal lifetime of endless seduction, always chasing the next shinier thing. What I'm talking about here is being really judicious and aware of, okay, during this period of my life, what is important to me in my dating life? Do I want to be swinging single? Is this a period where it's really good for me, often as a younger guy, to sow my wild oats, to learn about women, to have multiple partners, to not actually commit completely to one person at this time for a number of reasons, because I'm not established yet, because I've still got things I want to experience, because I don't think that I'm yet ready to be with a really amazing woman, because there's stuff that I need to sort out in myself and so on, right? But to note that during that period, okay, there's different types of ones that will work really well for me, but if I force myself into a box with an average girl and commit to her for that period of 22 to 29 or whatever in my life, and then I miss out on all the things that I wanted to explore sexually or in relationships or in the world in general, then okay, that can be a really regretful experience to have had that relationship at all. Better to stay actively single, not passively single, not sitting, waiting and hoping for the one, but to actually be going out there and learning the trade of finding the one. So over a lifetime, this really matters. You can see why it is that I'm so passionate about the pursuit of dating. Because on one level, you could just say, what's the big deal? It's just about trying to go and meet a girl and ask her out on a date, and it does or it doesn't work. And it's hard and it's boring and it's scary, and why do I necessarily need to learn this thing? I've always seen it as a vital life skill, because so much of your happiness is going to be determined by the relationships that you have, and particularly your intimate sexual relationships are going to absolutely determine massive amounts of whether you enjoyed your life in general. It doesn't need to consume your life, but it is something that you will need to invest in, and often intensely, for a short period. But the dividends, the payoff of this is a lifetime of choice. Right? Getting the skills under your belt of being a guy that I know how to handle women. I know how to show them who I actually am quickly. I can present myself in such a manner that's likely to spark attraction. I can pull the trigger. I can lead things from a first meet to a date to getting her into bed. Right? I can actually get relationships started in an effective amount of time. I can chart more or less how many women that I can bring into my life through my cold approach, through my networks and my social circles. I can figure out, cool, I'm actually humming at a certain vibrancy where there is this type of woman coming in and out of my life, and therefore I have this particular spread of choice. And if it's not satisfactory to me, I can see that, all right, realistically, when I look at this, it's not good enough. Then, cool, though I actually have proactive skills that mean that I can punch into or break into new echelons of women. If I have that skill set embedded in me, if I can project that in a natural and seamless kind of way, then I'm setting myself up for a lifetime where I will inevitably end up with the right one at the right time, right? From the spread of options that I have, ideally improving those and increasing those over time, I will be able to have a good shot with any woman that I meet. So I'm not going to have these situations where a potentially good prospect does come into my life somehow, but I drop the ball and I fumble it because I don't know how to handle it. It's that, no, okay, when there's an option, I'll have a good shot at it, and I'll have a fairly high statistical probability of being able to get intimate with this woman. And then from there, I can be proactively dating 2 or 3 ladies over some period of time, possibly cycling some in and out. And if it becomes a priority to me to, cool, I want to have an actual committed relationship, or a relationship which I define the terms of, whatever that may be, then I can start sourcing from these good options. So there's a whole bunch of good ones, and then I can choose the best one that I had the option for at that time. Cool, and then I can settle and actually commit to that person, because I'm not going to be thinking that the grass is greener. I'm not going to be going, this is the best that I can do. Right? I'm going to be proud of the fact that I'm with the woman that I really want, and she's with the man that she really wants. And so therefore we have become each other's ones. We have developed the skills and the character to become each other's one. Right? Because again, it doesn't need to be perfection, it needs to be overall happiness, overall satisfaction of life. Having both your needs met and enjoying your time together, well then, yeah, cool, she's a damn good one, and so are you. By gaining more experience in life in general, but specifically with women and dating, you also become more other people's prospects, more other people's ones. If you have learnt to engage with people of different demographics and ages, you are a man of the world who is able to connect with people on a personal and emotional level. Suddenly you break into all of these different subcultures and echelons of women that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. Again, most people, when they're choosing in their very small village of options, the village is extremely homogenous, right? It's kind of a funny thing, the idea that the one is going to come along, but the one is always going to be of your age range, your race, your demographic, your political views. It's going to live in the same, very small geographic area that you do, that somehow fate, destiny, the gods are constructing these actually fairly average ones everywhere and putting them right next to you. It's a ridiculous idea. But again, people will justify and have to put up with the situations that they find themselves in unless they're going to break out of them. And so you're only going to be dating usually within a pool of people who are actually really similar to you in most metrics. Okay, that may be fine, but it tends to be fairly limited, especially if those metrics are areas that don't really attract really interesting and sexy women. You improve your skills at communication in general, right? Which is why going and approaching lots of different women of all sorts of different types, of different races and hobbies and interests and ways of being and personality types, and getting used to and becoming proficient at engaging with people in all these different ways means the spread of the types of ones out there that you have access to, of course, exponentially increases as well. So, in conclusion, is there the one for you out there? Well, not in the Hollywood romantic comedy sense of the word, no. There's not someone just going to be delivered to you and going, there is your perfect consort and partner for the rest of your life. You waited long enough and here it is for you. No, it doesn't work like that. So in that sense, no, the one is a myth, and a dangerous myth at that, which can lead to complacency and putting up with a very mediocre relationship life. However, the one does exist on the broad scope of your life as you look back over your dating experiences, your relationship experiences, of the many long years that you've lived. You'll see that, there was a bunch of really average, boring, shitty ones, and then I put up with that one. And I shouldn't have done that, and that ended up really badly. And then I went and tried to find one last one because I was alone, and that's the one that I'm with now, and it's just that's the one I got. Okay, so all those ones exist. Not great. Or you can look back over this long, healthy life and go, yeah, there was a bunch of really good ones. She was goddamn sexy. She was crazy and fun. She really stimulated me intellectually. That woman was devoted to me and treated me like a king. And there was a bunch of really good ones. And I was a good one for her along the way. Was I perfect? No. Was she perfect? God, no. And we fucked up a whole bunch of stuff, and that's why that one ended up fizzling out. But I learned some lessons from that one, so that then when the next one came along, when I came along to her, because she doesn't just come along. Those type of women don't knock on your door. They don't, you don't trip over them and spill the coffee and go, oh, there you are. Those type of ones you got to go out and find. So you went out and found another great one, an even better one, possibly primarily because you were a better one, because you had made changes, you had undergone personal growth, you had dealt with your personal traumas and insecurities, you had become more of a man, you had become more proficient, you were able to seduce and beguile and love and be intimate and dominate and lead and have all these great masculine qualities, and these brought out the very best in her, and you became better ones by being with each other. And then at some point you were smart enough to go, cool, this is about as good as it gets. This is the best one I think that I'm going to find, and she's amazing and she loves me, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life, or a good chunk of my life, or I'm going to commit to this lady here. And then cool, I was smart enough to be the guy that learned how to get the best one that I could, and I got her. And now we're still together, and here's our kids, or whatever else it is. Or, life happens again, and you did have that experience, and then it ends for some kind of reason, and then you're back out at it again. But having these skills and these mindsets gives you agency. It means that over the course of your life, you will get to experience way more months and years of being with somebody that is really compatible with you, that you really enjoy being with, right? That you actually were the architect of your romantic life. You became the one that was good enough to get another one, or to build ones together, the two of you together, to have an exquisite life, to have all of the good things that you are out there trying to bring into your life. So don't get lost in the myth. Don't sit around waiting and hoping. Don't be nihilistic and negative about it either. Take the proactive steps that you need to, at whatever stage you're at in your life now, to make sure that you're building a future where you can actually bring an amazing one or many ones into your life. The fastest way that you're going to do that with my help is to jump on to the 5 Principles of Natural Seduction Brotherhood. This is a live mentorship course coming up, which will be 6 months, where you'll get to interface with me daily on chat groups, as well as live webinars happening monthly, where I'll be giving you missions, accountability, tracking your progress. You'll be able to interface with other guys in the group and study the 5 Principles of Natural Seduction Legacy Edition, which is my complete syllabus of teaching men how to go from a guy that doesn't know how to do this to the guy that is extremely proficient at it. So learning all the fundamental skills of conversation, of approach, of projection of intent, of challenging, of flirting, of dating, of bringing a woman into a sexual relationship, of dynamics of different types of relationships that you want to build. I'm excited to be taking a small, intimate group of men through this journey to make sure that they can most effectively get what it is that they want out of their dating life. I want guys who are committed, who are not apathetic, who are not hoping that I'm going to spoon feed them and do this for them. This does require you to take action. But it's daily and it's small, and it builds and compounds very quickly when you have the right learnings and teachings behind you.
So stay tuned for the launch coming up on the 13th of July and my free webinar on the 11th of July, which you can sign up for below. Put your details in, we'll send you the registration link, and you come on and ask me any of your burning questions about the realm of the ladies and the seduction and so forth. This has been James Marshall. Hope you enjoyed today's video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.